Yeah, I'm sitting tonight with, well, or at least speaking with Ward 11 councillor from Edmonton, Mike Nickel. The last time I spoke with Mike, he was in the soup fighting with some members of city council and such who were trying to censor some of his social media views online. These kinds of battles are pretty familiar to us in Calgary too, with city councils and mayors. But now we're into the 2021 election year. Your mayor is not running for re-election, so you're going to get a new one way or another. And Mike has thrown his hat into the ring. So thanks for joining me, Mike.
No problem. Happy to be here. It's funny you should talk about the code of conduct, because this was all about some memes I put out just on my own platforms, that stuff I pay for. I've some listeners might recall, some viewers might recall. And so they sent a motion. It didn't pass, and I didn't get sanctioned. Unlike your poor ward councillor down there. Oh God, poor Mr. Farkas. I just shake my head. I don't think I've ever been escorted out of city chambers. I don't think I can top that one. And anyways, we had a review of our social policy, and council just trashed it 0 to 13. They said, no, we're not going to bother. Social media policies.
Yeah, they dipped their toes a little too far there. But I mean, it's a good subject to start with. Because in a sense, and not that in particular, but as people like to often remind, I mean, a mayor represents a lot, but they are only one vote on council. But a very important role of mayor, of course, is a leadership role, and it's keeping a unified, to a degree, unified and functional council. And I know in Calgary, we've had a hornet's nest for 10 years. They spend more time fighting with each other and splitting on petty issues than getting things done. And it really frustrates us as constituents. And then I imagine you do some of the same things at Edmonton. So as a mayor, what could you bring in to address those kinds of issues?
Well, I'll be honest with you. We have the exact opposite problem. We have a bloc on council that votes with the mayor. And in my opinion, rubber stamps whatever the administration puts forward. I don't see the critical thinking, the policy competition that's really deserving of what a city council should be. The great thing about municipal politics is that you don't have to be a New Democrat or UCP, you can just be yourself. And for example, half my ward, Ward 11, is covered by Rachel Notley, leader of the opposition, and they vote for me because I tend to be very pragmatic, and I tend to rock the boat a bit. And maybe that's what they like. Maybe they like the fact that I challenge our administration, and that gets me in trouble quite often with my colleagues on council as they moan that, oh my goodness, you can't say this, you can't do that. I've just gotten to the point now where a lot of people have asked me to run for mayor, and I just stopped talking to council for the next part of this election cycle. And I think we just got to take it to the streets. Six of them aren't coming back. And so we're going to have pretty much a brand new council. I think some incumbents are in trouble.
Yeah, well, it's something you mentioned there. So there is a philosophical issue. And again, we do have that in Calgary as well, with the roles of administration versus the elected officials. Like we would have in Calgary, they would spend day after day fighting over individual applications for basement suites. Yet they've changed that finally. But when it came to anything from city administration, councillors would be chided by the mayor for daring to question the representatives from city administration coming in. It seems it was backwards. At least I would envision a city council role should be high level, and administration should be dealing with these more micromanaging aspects. But they've made it almost blasphemous to question administration, and I'm guessing you have some similar challenges there.
Absolutely. And if you're not of a particular what we call downtown core urbanist agenda, you're a bad person. For example, if you live in the suburbs, drive a truck, have a nice lawn, those kinds of things that I have, right? I'm quite proud of those things, and I don't think we should have to apologize for them. Instead, we're talking about gondolas, bike lanes, and funiculars here. So it's really coming down now to you just can't take what the administration says every day, because government doesn't drive the solutions we do. And that seems to be the divide, and I think, on our mutual city councils. There's some people that think bigger government's the answer, and some people like me believe smaller government's the answer, but with rigorous metrics.
Great. Well, and you're assuming you win this race, you're going to be coming into some very challenging times. What a bizarre time to be alive. Everybody's dealing
I
with
tell
what we
people I'm more scared of winning than losing. I guess that's how every politician should feel.
oh,
And I'll be quite honest, but I've been in business a long time and faced many challenges. I see nothing but opportunity for us, but this is the time for that complete mechanical and philosophical overhaul of our cities. I think Edmonton and Calgary should be hunting together. I think Edmonton and Calgary should be better on the value for tax agenda, so we can go to the province and say, you know what, stop pointing fingers at the province, who's ever in power. We're going to take care of our own problems, and you just need to get out of our way. And I think that is something we need to change. Stop putting our hands out to the other orders of government and start dealing with our own problems.
Well, it's near and dear to my heart, the way you're speaking. It applies to the energy sector where I do some work and things. I mean, we're not asking for government to buy pipelines and manage our oil field. We just want you out of the way. I promise you, we could do this well on our own.
But here's our challenge, Cory, is that we seem to be fighting a culture that has taken over our municipal councils, where it's big government, big government answers, tax and spend. And what I think people are starting to discover is that they can't deliver the value. But matter of fact, I argue quite often, government's terrible at solving complex problems. They're good at writing checks. They're great at writing checks, especially when it's your money. Yeah. But they're terrible at solving complex problems. And that's where you have to push power and authority down to either industry or the community leader or who's ever on the files, because they know the answers. And then, but you got to have discipline and rigor. You cannot, we're so tight now in our budgets. We cannot afford frivolous things. And this is going to be very difficult. I'm not afraid to say no. And some people love me for it. Some people hate me for it, but it's got to be done. But, we get back in quickly to your question of leadership. You have to lead with good ideas. And then you got to put it to council to mechanically vote on whether they like it or not. Just recently, I put out a policy paper calling for an independent project management office off of City Council. So basically what I'm calling for is a creation of a Chapter 9 company that just delivers large capital. It would have its own board, it would have its own governance structure, and we would separate the administration that designs and builds the budget, and these guys would actually deliver it, because we've had tremendous problems building anything on time, on schedule, particularly if it's over $100 million. You can check it out on my website, mikenichol.ca. It's called the IPMO. But what you really get out of this, Cory, is that in the long run, what happens is not only do you save money, we think we can save 10 to 20% on our large capital, but you get what I call policy competition. If the administration comes up with a budget that's unrealistic, they can send it back. If they come up with specs that are unrealistic, they can send it back. If they come up with a ridiculous schedule, they need to send it back. Enough of these boondoggles. I don't know you have some capital and project going south, but I can tell you about our LRT lines up here. They're not going so good.
No, we've been similar up here. They did the West LRT. I think it came in at double the budget. And the green line that we keep talking about, they keep saying it hasn't blown the budget, but what we have done is cut the size in half, and we're still going to spend $5 billion. Well, in my measure, that's a blown budget.
Here's our challenge, right? You're not an LRT line builder guy, right? And neither am I. So we got to create something out there that we can create some friction, some policy friction between the established administration, the people who actually have to deliver it, and then council can have 2 points of view. Right now, we just have administration's point of view, and like you said, they just tend to rubber stamp that. How dare you question the administration? Well, you should, but you need information to do that, good information to do that. So who knows? They may agree, but sometimes I think they will not.
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't necessarily want an adversarial relationship with administration. I mean, the goal is to work together and do something. But as you said, the rubber stamp, I mean, we know administration can often puts out some stinkers. I mean, that's the nature of bureaucrats. And maybe if they had some questioning, they could come up with some better things. So you've come from a business perspective all the way through your political career. And I mean, I think we agree that, I mean, small business, large business, but business in general is going to be integral for the economic recovery from this pandemic mess we're all in, and plus, energy resource collapse and many things. So what, as a mayor and city council, do you feel needs to be done and can be done to help facilitate businesses to recover and, really get the economic engine going again?
Well, the first thing is that instead of handing out grants to particular sectors or whatever, I strongly believe in tax relief for all, right? That's residents, industrial, and commercial property taxpayers. We have a real problem here in Edmonton where we've lost a lot of industrial commercial just to lower competitors in the region. We have to get a handle on that because our assessment is in a lot of trouble. And then the residential ratepayer just needs to see, you just can't keep increasing the bill. We've had 20 years of constant tax increases. And I've asked on council, when does it stop? When is it enough, right? In the good time, you've heard this argument, Cory. Oh, times are good, we have to raise taxes. Oh, yeah. Times are bad, we have to raise taxes. Well, there's a third, or cut services. That's the other choice, right? There's a third answer, and it's called productivity gains, right? As a business guy, we very often went to our shops, our frontline staff, and said, here are the numbers. What do you think we need to tool up to get it done, right? And so I do think labor can drive a lot of our answers because they're not the enemy here. I don't know what they're like in Calgary, but here, my unions offered to take zeros across the board, several unions, as long as everyone got a 0% tax increase. I don't know what they said in Calgary, but I got two big unions here said, we'll take zeros if you give everybody else a zero. Let's share it. So that's how far we've come over here about just trying to drive that. And then we have to focus on creating that regulatory environment where we're just getting out of the way and enabling deals to be done. I very often point to a former mayor of yours by the name of Dave Broncagnier. Some people liked him, some people didn't. But I'll tell you something, that mayor knew how to make a deal happen, and he was good at it. And very often up here, I'm jealous of Broncagnier's ability to get business moving. And that's what it takes. It takes some leadership and some people actually on council that knows how to read a cash flow statement, I think.
Well, that's it. I wasn't a big Broncagnier fan, but I had to admire, as you said, and he could put people together. That's kind of gets back to what I was talking about before. I mean, council would still have their spats and their moments, but when push came to shove, they could tend to collaborate and get some stuff done, which we really, they're getting it done in Calgary now, but boy, it's an ugly, ugly sausage making process.
Yeah, and we don't have the time. I just put out a paper where I say, basically saying time is our most precious resource. You can't make any more of it. I knew a large contractor here, and I'll just tell you a little story. I met him in a tile shop. I was in the stone business, and he was majored, big all across Western Canada. And the guy was dying of cancer, right? And he said, Mike, and we did work for him all the time. He said, Mike, I give all my money back if I can just have my health. That means more time. We're out of time. We're out of money. And so we cannot afford these kind of venture, kind of big government ideas.
No, so another challenge you're going to have, getting more to the nuts and bolts, is you're campaigning during a pandemic. So have you got, how are you going to approach this? I mean, events are going to be a little more difficult to hold. Door knocking is certainly challenging. Just a little on how's the campaign going or what you may be looking forward to this year.
Well, obviously on the mechanics side, we've been stepping up the social media presence quite a bit. Just after this, I'm doing my podcast called Mic Check that we've been doing for a couple of years, and it gets quite a solid viewership. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. And then, it's minus 30 out. So we really haven't taken to doing lit drops and the standard sort of things. We're just going to continue to put out some good policy and drive it through social media till it warms up a little bit, and then we can actually do some lit dropping and some COVID safe door knocking. So
you're in for a busy year. So maybe I'll just close off. Where can we then just repeat, where we can find more info on your campaign and what you're up to and staying up to date. And I'm sure we'll check in again later.
You can go to mikenichol.ca and check it out. And we've got the IPMO on there and some of our other policy statements. You should be seeing something pretty soon. Again, hopefully in about 2 weeks, another major policy announcement that really will speak to some of the core Edmonton values with regards to our environmental policy. There is a better way. And it's going to be one of these cases, provincial government, you just need to get out of the way and let us take care of it. And I think we can.
Great. Well, thanks very much for talking with me. And hope we can check in with you again as the campaign unfolds, and looking forward to watching to see how it goes.
Anytime.